Parks Foundation. We've got Taylor Raftery here, Executive Director for the Matsu Trails and Parks Foundation. Most folks know Taylor. And then following up Taylor, we're going to have Hugh Leslie, who's the Recreational Services Manager at the Matsu Borough. And they're going to be talking a little bit about all the awesome stuff that's going on in the Matsu. I have this little habit when I travel where I take pictures of good signage and then I troll local organizations about how bad their signage is. Like I'll send them a picture of like the excellent signage at like Crosscut in Bozeman, Montana. I'll like send it to NSA and be like, have you seen these maps and these signs? It's possible. But now there's such excellent maps and signage in the Matsu that I feel like I don't have to travel very far to troll local organizations. I can just go to the Matsu and take pictures and send them home. Anyway, that's a productive habit of mine. Sweet. All right, I'm gonna pull up your slides here, Taylor, and let you get started.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only one that goes on vacation and takes pictures of signs. So that's a habit that I've definitely been made fun of for, but it's a really good learning experience, and you can see some really great work that's happening around the country. All right.
I'm gonna hide these media controls. All right.
And just arrows.
Yeah, just you can either click the screen or right arrow.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Well, like Haley said, my name is Taylor. I'm Executive Director of the Matsu Trails and Parks Foundation. I've been working with the organization out in the Matsu for a little over 6 years now. It's been a great learning experience. Have been ED for just over 3 years now as well. So our mission is to be the Trails and Parks resource for a healthy community in the Matsu. We are a very, very small organization, so it's just me and our partnership and outreach coordinator who's with us today, Colleen. We try to do as much as we can with a small staff, and we have a really great all-volunteer board. So our work is kind of split into 3 different areas. So primarily we are a grant-making organization. So we provide grants to a variety of projects throughout the Matsu Borough. At least $350,000 go out every year. Last year we hit just over $700,000, which is really awesome to see. And that was thanks to partnerships with various organizations and funding from the Matsu Health Foundation. So the purpose of work is really to support the health, economy, and environment of the Matsu, get people outside and recreating. And so, as I mentioned, we do that through getting grant funds out the door. So that could be for a variety of projects from planning, small trail connections, grooming equipment, and signage, which we'll talk about a little bit more. The other way that we are supporting the community is we will work with land managers on larger projects. 2 big ones that we've wrapped up recently are the Curry Ridge Connector out in Denali State Park, which added about 16 miles of new trail. That was funded through the Helmsley Foundation, that was funded through Pittman Robertson funds. Really amazing. If you are still making plans for the summer, I highly, highly recommend getting out there. And we also funded Alaska Trails to get out and do some trail work because our state parks are underfunded throughout the state, but especially so in the Matsu, and there is tree fall all over that trail system. So they'll be out doing some corridor brushing, removing some of the tree fall, other small improvements. The second big project we wrapped up last year was the Independence Mine State Historical Park building rehabilitation, and that was through a $1.3 million grant from the Helmsley Foundation, as well as another about $400,000 from National Park Service Preservation Funds. That was a huge project, also working with Alaska State Parks to get that done. And the third way that we are working is we are putting a lot of time and money investing in Trails Park recreation opportunities in the Matsu Borough. And so we want to make sure that people are able to get out there and use it. So we will host a variety of free local community events. We just had a big summer resource fair last weekend. And then through sponsorship of apps like the Outer Spatial, which is heavily used in the Greenbelt area, especially, but it's a great free tool for the public to use to help navigate. So this is just a little bit of information about our grant cycles. So we'll fund land managers, nonprofits, small community organizations. Right now we accept grants, or we review grants on a twice-year basis. And as you can see, fund a lot of different types of projects. All right, and then I will start talking about the signage projects. So a few years ago, this was something that was identified as a priority by our board for funding. And we have approached various organizations as well as encouraged folks to apply for grants to support both education and wayfinding signs throughout the borough. So with the Matanuska Greenbelt trails, raise your hand if you've been out there. That makes up Matanuska State Parks, Matanuska Lake State Park, excuse me. The Matanuska Experiment Farm, Crevasse Moraine, Matsu College. It is a huge green space right in the corridor of the Matsu, heavily used. There is equestrian use, biking, hiking, walking, really beautiful area. If you have also been out there, I am a very frequent trail user, and the amount of times that I've gotten lost, even with the Outer Spatial app, if I'm out running, it's really easy to get somewhere and then realize that you are not on the trail that you thought you were on. I've had a run that I expected to be out for like 7-8 miles turn into a 16-mile adventure. I thought I was going to have to like crawl through someone's yard basically and get a pickup with my dog. And so we have heard a lot from the community about how challenging the existing trail signage is out there. The maps are a little confusing. On the Matsu Experiment Farm side, some of the trails have been closed down, and so some of those signs have been removed or blocked out. And overall, just not a really user-friendly signage system. And so we had just under $30,000 in funds designated to the Greenbelt. And then we had a little bit extra through our regular grant making funds and through conversations with the Matsu Borough and Alaska State Parks. We wanted to see if there was a way that we could invest in not only signage, but trailhead improvements, getting new maps out there, linking to the Outer Spatial app, which I mentioned before. That is a really great way when you are lost in the Greenbelt to try to navigate your way back to some trailhead. So there are 6 different trailheads in the area, about 33 miles, and as I mentioned, a very diverse user group. And I know for especially equestrians, it's an important area because it's one of, I believe, the only or one of the few non-motorized equestrian areas in the Matsu Borough. The Experiment Farm Kinwin Trailhead also has a huge parking lot, which is really nice for horse trailers. And so this is an area that they really want to preserve and enhance. A few years ago, I guess it was almost 5 or 6 years, actually. The Experiment Farm, in an effort to look at ways to monetize their land, actually looked at creating a gravel pit right in the center of the Greenbelt. And through concerted community effort, Great Land Trust, Matthew Health Foundation, as well as all of the different user groups and community members, we started getting together, and they are actually in the progress of creating a easement with a trail use agreement to help preserve that area. But overall, it's a really well-loved space, very important to the community. It's definitely a underdeveloped gem, I would say, to have that big of a green space just in the core of development in the Matsu Borough. So before I hand it over to Hugh, I just wanted to list some of the other trail signage projects that we've helped fund. If you're an organization in the Mat-Su Borough and you have any interest in signage projects or any other types of projects, please reach out to me. Our next grant cycle opens, I believe, early June. And so I'd be happy to help walk you through that process. But as you can see, there is a lot of enthusiasm and progress being made towards developing better education and wayfinding in the Mat-Su. Lots of different organizations have been a part of this effort, and we're very happy to support it. And so I will hand it over to Hugh to talk a little bit more about the Mat-Su Borough and land managers' efforts in developing this signage update for the Matanuska Greenbelt area. Thank you.
Thanks, Taylor. We might call you back up after Hugh for questions. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Hugh. I work in the Mat-Su Borough Community Development Department on the recreation side. A couple housekeeping things I need to get out there before I start speaking. Number one, this goes out to anybody who's going to do a speaking engagement. Never go second as the person in your presentation, because the first person might have taken about half of the information you were going to share. The second thing is Alan McLean. I think everybody in this room knows who Alan is and what a great asset he has in the borough. Just to clarify, I am not Alan. So please, expectations should be adjusted accordingly. He asked me to do this presentation because of some scheduling issues, but Alan was really the one on the borough side who was really the driving factor on the borough side to help get this project going. And also I want to thank the Trails and Parks Foundation for funding that. As Taylor said, the Greenbelt is a massive area, and we've got a couple of maps up there on the windows, and I want to thank everybody who helped us get them level. That was sort of a major process for us. The Greenbelt is bordered on the west by Trunk Road, on the south by the Parks Highway, on the north by the Palmer-Wasilla Highway, and on the east by the Glen Highway. As was mentioned, there's several different landowners in there. There was lots of issues with people getting lost. We had a sign project that was done a number of years ago. I want to mention that many people in the room remember Dot Helm. Dot passed away last year, but this was sort of a passion project of her to get the signage done out there. And as I mentioned, Dot, we are going to be doing a celebration of Dot's life in June. We haven't picked the date yet, but we've got a bench going in out there that's going to be lovingly known as Dot's Spot. And we understand she would probably hate that, but we're doing it anyway. And there'll be some wildflowers planted there and a plaque because the Greenbelt was so near and dear to her. She ran the Greenbelt committee when I started here in 2012, she was running it, and she ran it up until it sort of lost momentum there about 4 or 5 years ago. So as I mentioned, it's a gigantic area, and we have several different types of activities that are welcome there. Taylor mentioned equestrian group. We have mountain biking groups. We have hiking groups. We have skiing groups. We have biking groups. It's a non-motorized area, so fortunately we don't have a lot of incursion from motorized groups in there. But because it was so big, and because we have so many land managers or land partners, the idea of coming up with signage that's going to work for everybody is like trying to pick where you're going to go to dinner at a family reunion. Everybody wants to do something different. So the groups that met and talked were very cordial and worked together very well. That was UA, Mat-Su, UAF Experiment Farm, State of Alaska, State Parks, and Kepler Park. We started initially several years ago. Alan and I were talking, and I said, as Taylor mentioned too, we get lots of concerns about getting lost out there. And although everybody in this room has massive trail experience, the crevasse moraine or the Greenbelt Trail system, and I'll use those terms interchangeably, is a lot of people's first experience in what they would consider the back country of Alaska. And I will all kind of smile at that one, but it is. It's not crossed by any roads. You don't know whose land you're on. And some of the signage that was in there just wasn't accurate anymore. And we were getting an increased number of concerns raised by people because our trails in the Matsu Valley, and we track this just like everybody else does, our trail usage is jumping exponentially year after year. When I started in 2012, we sold about 700 annual trail passes. We now average over 4,000 annual trail passes per year. When we started keeping track in 2014 or 15, we had about 38,000 counts at our trailhead counters. Last year, we logged 380,000 plus counts at our trailheads. So the number of people using this particular facility is jumping exponentially. So the number of people concerned about getting lost is jumping exponentially. And so I said, you know, Alan, we need to do something. And so he says I voluntold him to do that, but I say it was a mutual conversation between two workers. And we kind of came up with this big sign project. And then we had to reach out to all of the different land managers. And I do have to mention some names here who help with this. At UAF, Jeff Johnson, Amy Young, and Nelson Crone. At Alaska State Parks, Jody Swanson. I don't know if Jody was here earlier because I know they had some training, but Jody's the acting superintendent for state parks right now. And then we some folks at UAA, which didn't give us a whole lot of input on what they wanted. They just wanted to make sure that certain trails were identified within their lands. And then once we got the land managers together, then we had to come up with somebody who could actually do the maps that are listed there. And we're fortunate that Heidi Whipple, who's with our GIS department, is here today. And a lot of what you're seeing visually, and her supervisor, Kenny Cleveline, through our GIS department, did much of this work. And we have a top-notch rock star GIS division at the Borough, and we just did a huge trailhead project with them. I can't remember the total number of signs, but it's over 30 different signs that we're putting together to better to brand our signage and to brand our colors and to brand the Matsu Borough, so that that picture there on the right is our color and our scheme and how everything that we're gonna be doing at our trailheads and at our parks and at our rec facilities going forward. And they've worked real hard, and I'm so glad she's here to get acknowledged. Going back to this particular project, Alan and the people that I mentioned through the different organizations met for over a year to come up with how many signs, where the signs were going to go, what the signs were going to look like. Was it just wayfinding signage? Was it going to be landmarker signage? Was it going to be partnership signage? Like, how are they going to do this? Again, they, not Hugh. I kind of feel like you guys all bought tickets to a concert and you showed up at the venue, and instead of the band you came to see, there's a guy singing karaoke very badly. So bear with me on that. And no, I promise I won't sing karaoke to anybody tonight. So what came out of this whole project was, and I'm passing around some of the wayfinding signs that are going to go out on the trailheads. There's 143 of those signs going out in the Greenbelt. And what's missing on those signs is the "where am I at?" So once the signs go up, we've got "you are here" stickers going on there. They're weather resistant vinyl, because we only wanted to print one sign that was going to go out to all of those trailheads. Because number one, we know they're going to get weathered. Number two, we know they're going to go home as souvenirs. And number three, we really wanted something that wasn't super obtrusive out there. And we didn't want to print a bunch of signs with the "you are here" on it So we're gonna manually put those on as we go up. It also included 50 entering signs, so you are entering Matsuboro lands, you are entering UAA lands, you are entering UAF lands. Because that's one of the things that we hear a lot is, I don't know whose land I'm on. And unless you're out there and you have it on one of the apps on your phone, you don't know whose land you're on. Who do I contact if there's a problem on that land? And that's part of what I'm going to talk about here in a minute. And then we've got 50 nearest trailhead signs going up. So when you're out there, and as Taylor said, the 6 mile hike turned into the 9 mile hike, you get to that point and you're like, oh my God, how far do we have to go to get to the next trailhead? Oh, it's right there. And so you can bail out to a trailhead. 100 tractor right-of-way signs for UAF. Because that's an active farm down there, they want people to understand that they have to give right-of-way to the tractors. 8 dog waste stations, because as we all know as trail people, dogs are wonderful companions, but sometimes we have pet owners who don't pick up after themselves, and sometimes the excuse is there wasn't a bag nearby. Well, we're putting eight stations out there, and then 7 bear-proof cans so that people can dump those dog wastes into something along the way. On all of the signs, there will be QR codes. This is kind of a neat thing, as I mentioned, who owns the land. There's a QR code on there. So if you're on Matsuboro land and you click on the QR code for whose land you're on, it will take you to the Matsuboro page. And on that Matsuboro page, you can buy your annual trail pass. You can learn about the trail. If you're on UAF land, it's going to take you to UAF. If you're on UAA, it's going to take you to UAA. So no matter where you're at out there in the Greenbelt, with that signage, 143 of them, as I mentioned out there, you'll be able to see where you're at and what that organization is made up of, and who's the proprietor of that lane. On the Matsuboro stuff, another thing we just launched, my dates are getting away from me, I think it was April 15th, we have a Matsuboro Trails problem reporter now. So just like the road reporter, when you drive over a pothole on any of the roads in the Matsu, rather than angrily call somebody, you can just report it through Matsu Problem Reporter. We've got a problem reporter for trails. So you see a downed tree, you see a dead moose, whatever you need to report, you'll be able to report through the problem reporter. That problem reporter generates an immediate email to myself and the 2 administrative specialists that work on the rec services side. And then we can reach out to either Alan, who runs trails, or Ian, who runs parks, and we can respond to that. Like I said, we just did a launch with it a couple weeks ago. And I don't want to make this sound like we have a bunch of problems on the trails, but we had significant wind events over December of last year, 4 on 4 consecutive weekends. And while we've done a good job removing a lot of the trees, some of the lesser used trails still have trees down, and we're getting those reported to us. If we run out of waste bags at the trailheads, people are reporting that. So it's working out to be a great tool to efficiently use our staff. And we're excited about that being out there on the trails. And then the other thing we're going to do, we're going to have small 4x4 signs made, set up on different at intersections of trails, or along the trail where there's not a break between trailheads. And this is going to go borough-wide trail system, not just at Crevasse Moraine, where we'll have that QR code for the problem reporter. Because what we notice, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody, is, oh, I should probably tell somebody about that. And then by the time I get back to the trailhead, I'm exhausted, I'm thirsty, I need to get to a local establishment and revive my electrolytes, and I forget to report it. So we're going to have these interspaced throughout the trail, so it won't slip your mind to report that problem to us in a fast way. As I mentioned, Taylor did a wonderful job of picking up some of the things that I was going to talk about, but the reason that I wanted to come and talk to y'all about this, and we're going to leave these up, this is a legacy project for the borough and for the partners and for the Trails and Parks Foundation. The signage that's going up now is going to last 20 years. It's going to reduce the problems, the conflicts that we have on the trail. It's going to enhance people's backcountry experience at the Greenbelt area. It signifies all of the partners and all of the work, and it's going to provide for a better destination point for people to go to who are getting their feet wet for the first time in what is a very large trail system, and let them know where they are. That was really the gist. Oh, and I do want to mention too that the money that we got from the Trails and Parks Foundation, because of this type of grant that there was no cash match for us on it, and we're doing the installation on all of the trails through our trail crew, which just started. I think some of the trail crew was down here on Thursday. We'll be installing that all ourselves. And I do want to make sure that I thank Taylor and the Trails and Parks Foundation for that funding mechanism. Heidi, who's sitting here, who did really the beautiful work that's on the wall. And then most importantly, and I think you guys all know what a gem Alan is for us. And I'm so blessed to have that guy working with me at the Borough. And with that, I guess Taylor and I can take questions.
I'll run the mic around to folks if they have questions. If you and Taylor can share that one for answering.
Sure.
And Hugh, feel free to say that the answer to the question is ask Alan. But yeah, my first question is, so with this funding, you're doing signage on multiple landowners' property, but the borough is installing all of it. Are you getting any like monetary or labor support from the other land managers that are within this system?
I think we're getting hearty attaboy and attagirls, and we appreciate that very much, but there's nothing coming our way that I'm aware of.
And is like the appetite at the borough for spending borough money on non-borough trails and land, is that complicated or is that fairly straightforward?
Because we're part of the Greenbelt, I don't see it as a big lift. We don't do work on the other people's trails, but just installing signs, I think, is going to be fairly accurate. If I missed that part of it, that might be an Alan question, but we're looking at putting it up ourselves.
I can add to that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so part of the agreement with the coalition that kind of got together, which that in itself was a really big deal to have that many land managers, landowners willing to sit down in the room to help solve a problem and create a win-win situation, was the fact that this was a priority project designated by our board. And so we were able to waive some of our other match requirements. State Parks actually put together the grant application, and then with the agreement that the Matsu Borough would do the installation. And with the Matsu Experiment Farm, there have been some issues with the trails in the past, just because their primary purpose is to operate as a farm. And they have allowed community use of their trail system. But that has not been guaranteed. And so they have had issues where people are going into the fields, there might be vandalism. And so for them to be able to have use restrictions or what's allowed on their land, identification of what their land is, and then have a partner who's willing to install and make improvements to the signs on the trail system, that helped pave the way for this coalition to work together to create the signs. And I would mention too that part of the update on this sign is there were a few trails on the Matsu Experiment Farm side, including the Johnson Lake Loop, where parts of those trails were closed off for farm use and experimentation. And on prior maps, those were identified as active trails. And so a really big thing that came out of this project is that they renamed, I think, some of the trail connections and left those open. And we really wanted to prioritize, especially from the Kinwin Trailhead, because again, it's a really big trailhead. It's great for equestrian users. We wanted to respect what the experiment farm is doing with their land, but also make sure that those trail connections that give access to other lands remain open. And so that is now captured in these updated maps. So hopefully there'll be less confusion, potentially a little education opportunity as well for the experiment farm to kind of talk about what they're doing and then still allow these uses.
And the experiment farm is where the easement is, but.
Yeah, so that is still in progress. Yeah, they're working with Great Land Trust on just appraisal processes, which can take years. But they have stopped pursuing the gravel pit idea and are dedicated to continuing this process of creating the easement. And that will most likely be partially or fully funded by the Matsu Health Foundation. And so part of their funding agreement is but the trail agreement will be tied to that. And so that would create a little more longevity on public use of these trails.
Questions? Oh, or do you want to just tell us all about your maps?
Hi, I'm Heidi Whipple with the Matsu Borough GIS division, and yeah, it's been such a fun project to be able to work on this with the group and with Taylor and all the landowners that were involved. It was so fun to see like collaboration come together and actually get like accurate, updates to trail data through our conversations. And so I wanted to speak to the two different designs here, and that's part of the partnership question that you're asking. The one on the right is the version that would go on all Matsu Borough trailheads. And then the one on the left, we designed just as the map itself so that each partner that was involved could take that image and create their own border around it with their own branding and logos and whatever other rules or information that they wanted to display. And so they could install those at their own trailheads and locations so that there could be consistency in the map, but then, partner specific information. So yeah, that was part of the design and the collaboration and thinking about how to make it work for everybody. And yeah, I just wanted to say too, the GIS division has done a bunch of work over the last few years to update trail data information. And so this is just one of many projects that's coming out of that, which is really exciting.
Why did it look so good?
A lot of input and a lot of print and iterations. But yeah, again, like because of people's input, we've been able to like really hone in, not just like the spatial data accuracy, but naming conventions and like what use types were for. Like there were things that we had labeled that we got, feedback from the equestrian groups, like, hey, these are used for, not just mountain biking, but also equestrian access. So just a lot of like information kind of came out of those conversations, which was super fun. Yeah.
I think there's a question.
Great.
Bring it in.
Wondering how the trail problem management is done. Is it on an app or?
I'm sorry, could you repeat part of the question, the last part?
How is the trail problem reporter managed? Is it an app or?
It's a QR code that's on the signs, and you just take a picture of it essentially with your phone, and it leads you to it's, what is it called?
I can speak to that too.
What's that? Okay, let's let Heidi do that.
Sorry. Yes, our GIS division worked with you on developing that. So it opens a browser page on your phone or whatever device, but it goes to an interface called Survey 123. And so it's essentially just like a survey form that is hosted by our GIS vendor. And then we're able to take the information that you input and automatically send emails to the appropriate people on our side, but also to you, the reporter, and farm out the information that way. So.
Are there other follow-ups? Do you have any follow-ups on that, Mindy? No. You have a follow-up?
No,
Oh, okay, hold on.
No,
Does anyone have a follow-up on the maintenance?
Can you speak to the cost of that using surveillance?
Yeah, I don't have the specific numbers. Luckily, our Survey 123 is something that is automatically a part of our Esri agreement. So it's not something that we had to pay an extra cost for as part of our yearly maintenance. So I don't have the numbers, but any organization that has sort of an enterprise agreement would usually have access to that platform.
Do you know any alternatives? Because we got it out. Like using tools,
Oh, interesting. What organization are you in?
the BLR.
Oh, okay. Let's talk offline. Yeah.
Mason, was your no from the BLM or was your no from survey 123?
Yeah, it was just like too much cost for like data storage, essentially.
Gotcha. Hugh, what happens if you get an email via the platform? Or like user goes to the QR code, enters the thing, goes to your survey 123 platform, you get an email, but it's on state park land. What happens?
We reach out actually to State Park and say, hey, we got a complaint or a concern. Or there was an issue reported, we looked at it, it's on your land, it's a tree down at blank trail about blank, far down the trail. And like the first concern we got was for the city of Wasilla in one of their parks. And so our first phone call was to the city of Wasilla. It was like a broken swing or something. So we don't want to say that's not our problem. That's not my job. We want to make sure that this is something that anybody can use, and then we'll reach out to the right people. And so far, our volume has been manageable.
Right. One thing about that too. Something that we've used the same system for our roads maintenance as well. And so something that's a big part of that is, of course, we'll get reports on roads that are not under the borough jurisdiction. And we have automatic alerts set up for roads if reports are made on state or other land that will automatically go to those entities, which we can also set up for trails and parks if the volume gets to a point where it makes sense. So far, this is kind of our soft launch, so we're going to see if it is necessary.
Yeah, follow up on maintenance stuff? No. Anyone else have maintenance app queries?
Yeah, it looks really great. I'm kind of curious. I imagine the trail network will evolve over the years, new miles will be built, that sort of thing. And, updating signs is always kind of, at least for me, it can be an overlooked thing to make sure the maps are current. And you guys, because of this great project, instead of having to update like half dozen trailhead signs, you'll have 150 small signs to update. So I'm just kind of curious if you've thought through like a way to future-proof that and make those updates easier for you guys that, others can try and, learn from. Because it for us, it's like starting from scratch every time we build a mile. It's like, all right, we've got to make a new map.
I thought there was a Sharpie, like writing in the new 3 miles of INHT trail.
So excellent question. Our focus right now is not on expanding the trail system at Crevasse Moraine. We're working hard at Settlers Bay Coastal Park, which is a newer park down on the KGB or down on KGB Road. And then we're working with the Denali Ski Club up in Talkeetna to add a loop at Talkeetna Lakes Park. I don't want to say we're never going to build another trail in the Crevasse Moraine system, but that's not really where our focus is right now. So the timing of this one seemed really good. And just so everyone knows, or maybe doesn't know, Crevasse Moraine, the borough side of it, is actually landfill property. And about 12 years ago, the landfill was going to expand and the entire Crevasse Moraine trail system on borough land was going to go away. Those were exciting meetings, just so everybody knows. I think I've been on staff about 3 weeks before I went to the first one of those. But they've changed the sequencing based on new technology and new what have you, and it's going to preserve those trails on the borough side for at least 25 more years. And then we see also technology is going to change in how we handle waste. And whatever you believe in works, whether it's composting or incineration, or we're going to come up with a flux capacitor that, you know, generates something. I think that as things change, those trails are going to be preserved in perpetuity. But it is borough, or it is landfill land, and the only place that we would build trails is on the borough land right now, and we've just sort of taken there's a lot out there to do right now.
I would say pretty similarly. I can't speak on behalf of state parks, but for state parks, the experiment farm, Matthew College, Kepler Lake, I think it's pretty unlikely that there's going to be a whole lot of new trail development out there. And then between the Matsu Borough launched a really great digital trail interface, and we have the Outer Spatial app. And so I think there will be a really good opportunity if small changes occur to the trail system, that can be captured digitally and QR codes can be added so that people can access that updated information without having to overhaul the total signage.
Can you talk about the fees for the trails? Because I know so many different land managers, depending on where you park. Is there an overarching fee that covers all the trails, or do you pay as you cross land?
So the fees are just for the parking areas. So there's Matsu Borough and Alaska State Parks parking fees. And that's something that is, for some reason, the Trails and Parks Foundation actually gets a lot of either complaints or questions about trailhead stuff, which we don't manage. But throughout the Matsu Borough, it's pretty easy to get on both Alaska State Parks land as well as Matsu Borough. And so if you're a frequent trail user, it's probably best to get an annual pass for both. You can help support the systems. And then for Matsu College and Kinwin, there are no parking fees. And I believe for Kepler Lake, there might be one. That's a private.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Kepler, we just recently learned that might be going private.
Okay.
And that's on the Glen Highway there. That particular piece of property, there was a death in the family, and the people that are in charge and own it now are looking at closing that off and making it a private access. So there's really nothing there. And as Taylor mentioned, what we charge for is parking. And I get it, if you, you know, gosh, I have to buy a state pass and I have to buy a borough pass. And the one thing I will say about the borough, and no offense to anybody who's from the state here, if you don't buy your pass and you get a parking ticket at a borough trailhead, it's a $40 ticket. And if you come in and pay that ticket, we give you the annual trail pass. The state of Alaska does not do that. So spend your money wisely.
Hi, I'm with Denali Borough, and this is really exciting because we have trails that are not built yet, but are ideas in our heads. And I'm wondering about if you, and I'm sorry if I missed this, long-term maintenance, and if you have a maintenance agreement, like who's taking care of the signposts if something happens to them? And then also, who is emptying all of the dog poop out of those 7 bear-proof trash canisters? So thanks for addressing the nuts and bolts if you can.
Do you want to do the maintenance? I can speak to the dog group. Because Alan's not here and made me come, Alan will be emptying those cans. No, on the at the borough trailheads, we'll handle them. At the other landowners, they'll handle them. And then I don't see us losing a big percentage of signage per year. And we've actually got some extra signs. We will just go out and replace them as part of being good neighbors with the other landowners.
Yeah, and for maintenance, so Matsu Borough will take care of their lands, Alaska State Parks will take care of their lands. With the Matanuska experiment farm lands, those are technically farm roads. And so they actually have pretty good trail corridors built up already, but they will probably be maintained primarily for the use of the farm, which does benefit the trail users because they're taking big trucks and stuff on those, or tractors. For the Matsu College, I don't know how much trail work they're really doing. The last time I was on those trails, they were a little bit overgrown. But I do know that there's a lot of volunteer groups, and actually with the Matsu Borough, there's trail care agreements. And so you'll get folks who are doing extra maintenance out there.
Great. You have so many questions for you too.
The signs are really exciting. Hey, Simona from Rasmussen Foundation. I was wondering, Taylor, the fact that it took a whole year for a committee to decide on signs for a trail is pretty crazy, but did you also, with your board, prioritizing this project, did you give them an open-ended number on what to aim for their project? Like, did you say, we want this done, let us know how much it costs? Like, how did that applications process work?
Yeah, so I would mention that it wasn't just a year. So this effort actually began prior to 2020, and then with conflicts, and then with the gravel pit scenario, those talks actually kind of dissolved. And so I think that prior effort had been a couple years, and the different land managers, user groups, like, were not working well together. And so it dissolved. And this time, really, it was the priority on the land managers on getting them together to make the decisions. I did let them know we had some restricted funds specifically for the Greenbelt. So I gave them a ballpark on what that was guaranteed to be available, and then encouraged them to, they did put in a regular grant application that was reviewed like all of our other grants. But I told them to aim high, like, put in everything you need. Let us know what trailhead amenities you need, and we'll do our best to fully fund it. If the funds are limited or it's a really competitive grant cycle, we might not be able to meet above that restricted level. But for that grant cycle, and because our board saw this as a big priority, it's a heavily used area. As Hugh mentioned, with the stuff coming up with the landfill and then also with the gravel pit, the community is very dedicated and very vocal about how much they love and value this green space. And so it was a pretty easy decision for our board to designate those additional funds for the project.
I think we're coming up on time, but we've got time for.
So I'm Camille with the Home Recycling Club. We're building a brand new trail system on state park land. And so I'm curious to know are the signs located at each trail intersection? Number one question. And number two, what kind and size of posts are you mounting them on?
Good question. They will be at all of the intersections. Throughout all of the various landowners. Currently, right now, there are posts there. I can't remember if they're 6x6 or 8x8 within that trail system. And then where there aren't trails, we're going to go with 4x4 natural, or a post. Yeah, and then for the problem reporter ones, those will go on Telspar posts throughout, because they're going to be real lightweight. As we passed the sign around, you felt how heavy that was. You need something a little stouter for that to be held on to.
Thank you.
Awesome. We're just about time. Maya, were there questions online? Okay, great. What does that 6x8 inch sign cost per? Do you know? Should we ask Alan?
We need to lower our expectations, as I mentioned earlier. I am not Alan. I can find out for you though.
No, that's not good. I was just curious.
But so let me put it to you this way. Total signs that are part of this project is pretty close to 300, plus the dog waste stations and the bear-proof cans, and the project, it was a $38,000 project. So back off a few thousand for the dog waste stations, and then divide that number by 300, and you'll come up.
It was about 400.
Great. Well, all right. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for Taylor and Hugh.
Good job.